so now we need the scale, and remember to zero it out. And we're gonna do 375 grams of water. I'm using warm water today because it is kind of cold. Ooh, 368. It's 375 now. And then I usually do the salt next, just so it dissolves. And that's 12 grams of salt. 10, oops, 12 grams. And then 100 grams sourdough starter. So I'm gonna use this. I kind of like to dissolve the salt a little bit. Oh, that's 95. And that's 112, which is fine. And so I have this much left over. I'm honestly just gonna put it back in here and then put this in the fridge. And then this is my fed starter to live in the fridge for a week or two before I feed it again and put it back in the fridge, or feed it again and then use it. So this is, should be 100 grams, but I did 113, and that's okay. It's not going to ruin everything. If it's like a lot more than that, I try to scoop some out, but it's okay. And then I like to mix this up so it's a little bit more dissolved in here. Okay, and then now 500 grams bread flour. I use King Arthur. A lot of people do. I would not say you can use like all-purpose or anything. There are all-purpose sourdough recipes, and that's what I used to do in the beginning, but it doesn't taste as good. So I do highly recommend bread flour. All right, so we're doing 500 grams bread flour. And this is gonna look like a lot, and it looks like it's not gonna get wet enough, but you'll see it'll come together in the end. So right now we're at 350, 430, okay, 478, 492, 499, 500. All right, so it's 500 grams of bread flour. I don't like the scale anymore, and it helps to maybe put like a towel under your bowl so it doesn't move around so much. So for now, I'm going to just use, you can use any spoon, you can use your hands too, but I feel like it's easier to start with the spoon and then switch with your hands. But I go pretty slow, or else the flour will fly up. So I'm just gonna try to get all the dough wet. It takes a little bit. At this point, I might just use my hands. I don't need to use my hands at this point. It looks pretty good, but I kind of just like to squeeze it in and make sure there aren't pockets of flour left over and that it's all pretty wet. Also, in general, my recipe might be too wet, and I should probably use a different recipe, but I've been using this recipe for baking sourdough for over a year, so I like the taste of this recipe. I like this recipe, but maybe one day I'll try another recipe. But it's not as stiff as some other recipes I've seen online. So maybe I'll try a new recipe one day. And again, you have the sourdough starter, so you can use whatever recipe you see online. So I think this is good, and we're going to leave this covered with a damp towel or paper towel for half an hour. This is a clean, damp paper towel. Half an hour, and then we'll do our first stretch and fold after that. Oh, also just to show you, I emptied this one out and just put it in here. And again, this is now fed starter. I'm not using this. I already used the other half in here. So this I will just put in the fridge. Again, lid loose. And then leave this in the fridge for, if you're not going to use it, you could leave it in the fridge up to 2 weeks and then feed it again in 2 weeks and just put it back in the fridge if you're still not using it. Or just, again, feed it whenever you want to use it and then put some back in the fridge. So this will live in the fridge. And if you want to be all fancy, it could be like last fed the date. Just so you can keep track of that. But usually I just feed it, I usually remember because I see it every day in the fridge. But if you're not that, if you're forgetful, then, or if you put in the back of your fridge, like having a date's good. Also, yeah, so I usually feed it like in 2 weeks, or if it looks really sad, or if I just feel like it, then I'll feed it, but a week or 2, maybe 3, but I think 3 is pushing it, but I don't know. Once I did leave for vacation for 3 weeks and came back and it was still fine.